your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals.
My approach to this problem is to try to help reduce the supply of new homeless people. That there's a sort of moral obligation as a fellow human being that you can't do nothing about this. And you need to find the least terrible estate agent. But here's my advice on how to price when you're renegotiating.
There's nothing else you need. If you've got this 150 quid, that's it, you can move in.
Oh my God.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie. I'm Charlie Lambden. And tonight almost didn't happen, by the way, but tonight we are going to be discussing house prices versus the recession. What's the relationship between the two of them and what's likely to happen for those people who need to move house or who want to move house? So why did this evening almost not happen? Okay, I've had a shocking day. It started at 4:30 this morning when the first of my three children woke up. Then they went back to bed, and then the next one woke up at 4:45, and then the next one woke up at 5 o'clock, and I just gave up. So I've been awake since 4:30 and up at 5, and I broke a tooth at dinner. And then when I sat down at my desk about half an hour ago to prepare for this live stream, my computer just totally crapped out. So I had to dig up my laptop and get that up and running in a bit of a rush. And my iMac is coming to life, and I'm hoping to get it working because there are some screen shots I wanted to share with you in this evening's live stream. So it's also worth pointing out welcome to all my new subscribers, by the way, on TikTok and YouTube. We're doing a simultaneous live stream tonight. It's worth pointing out that the videos I do on this channel is my third job, not my first, not my second, my third job. So I don't get nearly as much time to prepare for these videos as I would like to. But I get such good feedback that I'm going to just keep cracking on until someone tells me to stop. All right. Now my computer is coming to life slowly. I'm going to see if I can just do it while I go along. I would like to start this evening by pointing out the fact that Moving Home with Charlie, as this channel is called, is about sharing moving advice, and in particular, how to let you oh God, sorry, I'm gonna have to stop that because it's just too distracting. How to help people beat bad estate agents at their own game and give you a better chance of moving, right? It was never meant to be about making market forecasts, and the occasional housing market forecast was just something that I did almost on the side, until I did the one in August entitled 8 Reasons Why House Prices Are Going to Collapse, which to me, I thought already back then was just staringly obvious and not even a controversial opinion for people within the industry. And I was completely shocked at the reaction that I got to that video. First of all, how many people on YouTube viewed it and how it took my YouTube subscribers from a few hundred to we're approaching 9,000 now. Thank you very much and welcome to all new subscribers. So that was a big surprise. And secondly, since August, since I've been, due to popular demand, following up on my opinion on the market, I've been experiencing gradual and increasing levels of pushback, but exclusively from people whose livings rely on transaction volumes, moving transaction volumes. So estate agents and mortgage brokers, not all of them. I've had some phenomenal support from a few estate agents and a few mortgage brokers who've gone, it's so good that someone's actually standing up and explaining what they feel and why they feel it and just letting us all hear it. But even today, and so I'm feeling another reason why I was actually really in two minds about whether to do tonight's live stream or not. It's because I've really been wound up today by a couple of people on Twitter. And I know I shouldn't let myself get wound up on Twitter. And I'm not upset. I'm cross. I'm pissed off because I cannot believe that certain people are in a position to advise people on major financial decisions to do with their mortgages, their borrowing, their pensions, their investments, their housing, and yet who appear to have no opinion on the economy or the housing market and keep on saying stupid things like, well, no one's got a crystal ball. Obviously, no one's got a crystal ball and no one is predicting anything with any certainty. But there are so many resounding things happening that you don't need to be an economist to look at and see and go, well, that's not good, is it? And so tonight, the title of this video is The Recession versus House Prices. Okay. Now, the recession is the economy. It's just an economy that's not growing, it's contracting. And the economy and house prices have forever been very closely linked, perhaps too closely linked. And this channel is predominantly viewed by people who are moving house or who aspire to move house or who are trying to move house. And we have a few also estate agents and mortgage brokers that I know watch this, and you're all welcome to watch it, but I'm here to address movers. And the question that I get multiple times a day is, if house prices are going to fall, when should we move? And I can't answer that question for anybody because it's a personal, very much a personal thing. And it shouldn't just be about the money unless you're an investor. And if you're an investor, I'm not here for you guys. I'm only here for home movers, okay? And there are personal non-financial considerations about moving home, and then there are financial considerations about moving home. And of course, in a falling market, there is an increased danger of negative equity, and therefore a lot of people are much more cautious and more worried about it. And so the purpose of tonight's live stream is to share with you all of my opinions on all of the things that are likely to affect the housing market and house prices and the availability of houses and the availability of finance, so that you can apply it to your local market, okay? Because there's no one size fits all for the UK housing market. There are just countless thousands of micro markets, the place that you want to live, right? And you've got to take what I offer you this evening and take the bits you like and disregard the bits you don't like and apply it to your local market to help you make a decision, a balanced decision. Because my advice to anyone who wants to buy a home right now, whether you're buying for the first time or whether you're selling to buy a second home, whether it's upsizing or downsizing, is even though house prices are definitely falling, and I'll go into that in a minute, right? You should still buy if you need to buy, if you need to move house, if you want to own a house, just as long as you don't overpay. Okay, everyone says, okay, fine, Charlie, we'll not overpay. How do we know what overpaying is and how much we should be paying so that we don't overpay? And I can't answer that question for you. Only you can figure out what the answer to that question is for the property concerned, for your personal circumstances in the local market that you are looking at moving into. So I will share my very simple layman's method approach to looking and assessing this housing marketplace, right? So that you can then take whatever bits you want, and you can go back and watch this video again if you think it's helpful, to make a decision about whether you're moving. Now, after I've done this, I'm going to go through the 4 categories of home movers. Not here for landlords, not here for investors. I'm here for home movers, which is first-time buyers. Number 2 is upsizers who are selling and buying. Number 3 is downsizers who are selling and buying. And number 4 is people who are just selling, just need to sell their home. Okay. So let's just remember, I'm now becoming more widely known for my 35% house price fall prediction, which I believe began, in fact, I know it began back in March 2022 at the coalface, starting to be reported in August and September prices. And I think it's going to last for at least 2 years until we hit the bottom, maybe longer. It's not going to be an overnight crash. There are going to be steep-ish falls in 2023. How steep they are will be affected by the economy or the recession, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. And so those of you who are trying to figure out when is the right time for you to buy, I'm hoping you'll be able to take something away from this video that will help you make that decision for yourselves. And I am going to try and get this other browser window up to help with this. So let me just say, so 35% is a meaningless, because it's an average figure, right? But it is what I think the overall average will be. But averages don't help you with your individual move. Me saying that house prices are going to fall on average across the UK 35% does not mean house prices are going to fall 35% where you live, okay, or where you want to buy. They might only fall 10 to 15%. I think those are the minimum falls we'll see, by the way, 10 to 15%. They may well fall 50%. There will be places where property prices fall 50%, because every local market is affected by local things, local employment, local considerations, whether or not there are universities, whether or not you're a tourist destination, whether you're a commuter town. You know, even within one town, you've got one side of a town that's going to have a different market to the other side of the town. And I can't advise any of you on specifics for you. So what I will do is I will share my approach to formulating my market view at a national level, and you can then take that away and apply it at your local market level. That's the purpose of this video. Okay, so that hopefully you can apply this at your local market to figure out at what point it makes sense for you personally to proceed with a purchase of buying a house, or proceed with your sale and your purchase, etc. Okay, excuse me. So all of the institutions, so Nationwide, Halifax, some of the high street banks, Santander, people like that, have been saying they're all now forecasting house price falls next year. They vary wildly. The OBR, the Office of Budget Responsibility, is forecasting 9% house falls within a year. Nationwide was saying it was 8 to 12%, but worst case scenario could be 30% falls. But the thing everyone needs to remember is that all of these institutions have a vested interest in the transactions in the home moving market and will never forecast how bad it's going to be. And if you'd like evidence of that, in the comments below this video on YouTube, I've got a link to a Guardian article from December 2007, where the Halifax said, just before the 2008 house price crash, the Halifax said, it was a 2-year slide, not a crash, right? But they said, yeah, we see the conditions are forecasting the 2008 house prices are going to remain fairly flat. Okay, so they will never, and I don't think, to my knowledge, ever in history has a bank or a mortgage lender or any financial institution forecast house prices to be lower than they turn out to be. Okay, just bear that in mind. Okay, so why is no one forecasting 35%? Because why would they? They've got vested interest. They don't want people to think that that's going to happen, because then everyone will stop buying and stop moving, which is a mistake if you need a home. So I've been asked 2 questions. I was going to share them with you on screen. That's not going to work. I'll just tell you what they are. Someone on Twitter, whose name I now can't remember, I did have it, but it's gone, asked me why, when only the UK and Germany are forecast to go into recession, am I thinking that the recession is going to be so horrible, in the words. And I did use the word horrible. Okay. So why do I think the recession is going to be so horrible? That is a question I'm going to answer, because it directly influences what's going to happen to house prices. And the other question I was asked is, Charlie, please would you do a devil's advocate video arguing why house prices won't fall, and why, what is the argument for them rising? And I want you to remember that question, those 2 questions, okay? Because I'll come back and answer that at the end of this process. So, recession v house prices. What I really mean is, how much is the recession that we are already in, even if technically it's not a recession until 2 quarters. We've been in recession since August. I knew that. I called it back then. That's been confirmed that Q3 was in downturn, and Q4 is definitely going to be worse. So definitely, there's no question about it. There's no question. You don't need a crystal ball, guys. You don't need a crystal ball. You just need to open your eyes, open your ears, and look at what's going on, and you will see that the economy is not strengthening in Q4 after Q3. I hope I'm wrong. I, hand on my heart, hope I'm wrong, and that it's not going to be a recession as bad as I think it's going to be. Okay? So we are in a recession, and this is why I think it's going to be bad. Now, the person who asked me to do the answer to the question about why is it going to be such a horrible recession, wanted me to do detailed analysis of financials. And that's just not how I work, right? That's not my method. And if anything, my particular method, which is very artistic, shall we say, and creative, because it really mixes a lot of measurable metrics with a lot of sentiment and emotional stuff and stuff that's intangible, and confidence and that kind of stuff that, you read in between the lines of what's happening in the financial markets and what's happening elsewhere. And so I mix it all together, and economists just do the numbers, and then other people just do the ballpark stuff, and then I kind of mix it all together, and that's just how I get my view. I also enter into this process with no opinion. If you enter into the process of forecasting the market with a preset opinion, you're already going to be wrong, okay? Because you're allowing yourself to bias your result, which is what's happening with all not all, but most estate agents and people like that. They aren't even aware of the fact that they are influencing their own forecast because of their own bias, whether they realize it or not. So I am coming at this question about how bad is the 2023 recession going to be with a completely open mind. And I'm looking for anything, good or bad, that's going to be positive or negative. And I just jotted down in the few seconds that I had today to do this, a list of things that I think affect how much money people have to spend on anything and on everything. Okay, because that's what an economy is. It's how much people spend. And for those of you who don't know, 60% of GDP comes from household spending. Okay, so 60% of our economy comes from household spending. And roughly 20% comes from government spending, and the other 20% comes from investment. But by far and away, the largest portion of our economy is driven by household spending. So let's just talk about, we can touch on the others as well if we need to, but you'll find that there's nothing positive anywhere. There are tiny little bits of positive news, but there's nothing major, right? So we're just going to start on with household, which is how much money do people have to spend? Okay. So I had a graph ready to share with you, which I can't share with you now, which I will put a link to afterwards so you can see it. It'll be a Twitter link. In fact, it might be there already. There's a Twitter link, but it goes to all of Alex's graphs, and if you want to go find it, it's there. And it talks about GDP, and it talks about private debt. And private debt per capita, per head, is the highest it's ever been in this country. And government borrowing, government debt, is the highest it's ever been. Okay? And as if that wasn't bad enough, the interest rates on both of those things has gone up. So the interest that you're paying on your mortgage, when it comes to, if it's variable, when you come to fixed rate, is going to go up, and it's going to reduce the amount of money you can go out and spend. Okay. And if you've got loans or other things that are on variable interest rates, the interest rates on those is going to go up too. That's going to take more of your money. And the government's borrowing costs have gone up too. And which is why they've had to put up tax rates, okay, to help pay those high borrowing costs. So whether it's your household debt or whether it's your mortgage debt, unless you're on a fixed rate, your interest has gone up, and that's eating into your disposable income. Okay. That's point number one. Point number two, those interest rates, so that's already happened, right? Those interest rates are forecast to rise further. The Bank of England base rate is forecast to rise to somewhere around about 5%. We don't know exactly how high, we don't know exactly when, but roughly that's what's going to happen. Okay. And I'm not going to get into accurate specifics here because it's just too exhausting. You don't need to think about it. Are interest rates going up or down? They've told us they're going up, right? They've told us that they're going up, and they won't be coming back down for at least a year. Okay. So that means everything gets more expensive if you've got debt. Number three, energy price increases. They went up in April, which is why I knew that already that was going to take a big chunk out of people's disposable income. They went up again in October. And yes, the government has capped them slightly, but has not capped them very much and will not be capping them for very long. Okay. So those energy bills, coupled with people's increasing rents as well as increasing mortgages, has already wiped out disposable income completely for a lot of people. Okay. And as we go into the winter getting colder, that's going to get worse. And people are going to be forced to borrow money on higher interest. Okay. So, and the government's help is only going to be, I think, until March 2024, I think. I can't remember, it might be 25, okay? But that help is going to go. And when that help does go, it means we'll be paying the full price of energy. Now, perhaps energy prices will have come down by then. Fingers crossed, but we don't know. And if they do come down, they have to come down a long way, remember. They've got to come down by half to get back to what they were before. Now, we go back to where we were before. I'm jumping around a bit here, but it's relevant. I'll come back to that later. Okay, let me keep going through my list, right? The cost of the fuel you put in your car, petrol or diesel, has gone up massively, horribly, massively, and is showing no signs of coming down anytime soon. In fact, there's a forecast to be a diesel shortage coming down the line, and that's going to put diesel prices back up if that happens. And for that not to have a continued increase and a continued forcing us into recession, those prices would have to be coming back down by 40 or 50p a litre, okay? That's how much petrol and diesel prices would need to come back down to free up disposable income enough to make a difference to the economy if it was just on its own. That's fuel. Food. For most people, the cost of the weekly shop has gone up by so much more than 11%, hasn't it? Right? Whose shopping has only got up by 11%? Anyone? No one. Shopping has gone up by 20, 30, 40, 50% for a lot of people, okay? So your energy, your fuel, your food, your interest rates, your household debt, your mortgage, your rent, it's all gone up and is likely to continue going up for some time yet because of inflation. Okay? Next, we just found out in that last budget that there are going to be tax rises and they don't come into effect until March next year. So just when you're getting out of the winter and thinking, oh my God, thank God the winter's out of the way, maybe with that, with energy bills coming down as the temperature comes back up, we'll be able to get back on our feet. But no, you're going to get a punch in the face with higher taxes. Everybody, nobody is exempt from those higher taxes come April 2023. All right. Then the government is going to be doing spending cuts. So the government's 20% that it contributes to our GDP by government spending is going to be at least restricted. I don't think it's going to be keeping up with inflation anywhere near it, right? And therefore, that's not going to be stimulating any growth. And then the other major area of spending that is driven entirely by house price growth has just been taken out. And that is people releasing equity from their homes in order to pay for home improvements or in order to go out and spend on something else, help their children get onto the property ladder, whatever it might be, because that equity is currently disappearing like a deflating balloon making a farting noise. It's just going at the moment. And is, in my opinion, going to be going, the total price of property is going to be going by about 35%. Okay, so even for people who own their properties outright, they're going to be seeing that much reduction in their asset value. I don't have time to go into and explain why it's such a ridiculously stupid thing to say that negative equity doesn't matter if you don't have to sell. It's like saying to someone, all the savings that you had in your bank, well, they're all gone, but you didn't need them, so it doesn't matter, right? Every time I hear an estate agent say, well, negative equity doesn't matter unless you need to move, it just makes me think, Jesus Christ, you guys are so insensitive to your movers' needs. Your equity in your home is like your savings in your bank. And if it's gone, it massively affects your life. Your security is gone. Your choice, your options, your chances to make life decisions, gone. Yes, if you can survive and not lose your home, then you keep your home. But maybe you want to move. Maybe you need to move. Maybe all kinds of things that you cannot do. And every single time I hear anyone in the moving industry say, well, as long as you don't need to move, negative equity doesn't matter, I want to slap them around the face and go, really? It's just like, do you actually believe that? Or are you just saying it to support your businesses? Okay? Because try saying to someone, that 25 grand that you had in a savings account, it's all gone, but you weren't planning on spending it, so it doesn't matter, right? Come on, guys. It's just, you're letting yourselves down every time you say that. If there are any agents watching this, or mortgage brokers watching this who think that and say that to customers, I urge you to stop, because not only do you make yourselves look really out of touch, to put it kindly, and insensitive, they're not going to want to work with you if you say that. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. Now, so that's the list of things that are all known effects, okay? Household debt, highest since, personal debt per head, highest since records began. Government debt, highest since World War II. Interest rates going up for sure. Energy prices not coming down anytime soon, and government help being removed. If not April next year, it's the year after. Fuel prices not coming down anytime soon. Diesel might be going up. Food inflation. Food wholesalers are telling the retailers that they haven't even passed on the full extent of their price increases yet. And next year, supermarket food is due to get even more expensive just because of the time delay of inflation coming down the supply chain. Tax rises. It's a fact. It's in the budget. You can download the budget document and read it. And tax rises are going to affect everyone. And the people with the most disposable income are going to be the people affected the most by these tax rises. And those are the people who fuel the economic growth. And then their disposable income is going to be gone. So can you see my point here? If anyone thinks I'm missing a major item of publicly verifiable information that is a big positive, let me know, okay? So now, it's also worth reminding people when you're thinking about how bad and how long might this recession be. And again, guys, I am not someone who wants it to be bad. I am not forecasting doom. I am objectively analyzing, like a grown-up. I'm objectively analyzing available information to try to work out what our futures look like, right? If you look at the graph, Alex's graph, the GDP graph that is in the link below, it's a Twitter link and you'll find his media there. You will see that up until the pandemic, the average GDP growth since 2001 was only 1% a year. Okay? That's with ridiculously low interest rates, and that's with huge amounts of quantitative easing. Okay? So basically, our economy has been on life support from quantitative easing and low interest rates for a very long time. And even then, it only managed a pathetic 1% of growth. Okay, I don't even know the reasons why or not why. I'm not going to get into that about manufacturing versus services and all that kind of stuff, import, export. It's just like our economy, look at the facts, struggled to make 1% a year growth when it did have billions of pounds a year of money being printed and incredibly low interest rates, which we now don't have either of. Okay. So putting all of this together, I struggle to see anywhere that a serious stimulus could come and suddenly give the British public lots of disposable income to go out and spend again. I cannot see in the near term, as in the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, I can't see it. My idea for how to stimulate that, it is what I would be doing if I was in government. And guys, I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is just my idea, okay? Which would also solve the housing crisis, eventually, not straight away, but would also solve the, again, people go, oh, unemployment's really low. It's not. Look at how they've manipulated the figures, and it just isn't. When you take the economically inactive people that they're not considering out of work, who are out of work, right? Employment is not that low. And it's forecast by the Bank of England and the OBR to get quite high in the next couple of years. Right? So we've got unemployment forecast to rise. Something else I didn't even mention. Okay, we're coming into how the economy is going to be. So we had a flatlining economy before 2022 hit with the war in Ukraine and fuel prices and energy prices and inflation and tax rates and the budget and mortgage rates. We still had, it was like beep, beep, just a weak pulse was the British economy. That's now being effectively flat. It's like beep, it's going down. And I can't see, did I finish what I was going to say? Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around. So the only thing that I can think of that would solve this problem would be a massive government funded, however they want to fund it, building mission, like a huge building mission to just catch up with the shortage of affordable housing, employ huge numbers of people doing it, create employment, create modern, environmentally friendly and economically friendly homes to live in, create employment whilst doing it. And that's how you re-stimulate an economy, with a massive stimulus like that, right? Maybe they will do that. At the moment, they're not talking about doing it. I hope they do. And if they announce that before the next election, it might give them a chance of avoiding the otherwise certain death that the current government faces in the next election. But there's no sign of that at the moment on the horizon. Okay. And as far as investment goes, yeah, there's some external investment because the UK looks like a cheap place to invest. I mean, the pound has actually got stronger against the dollar recently. It's back up to 121 last time I looked. When you factor in things like nurses' strike, postal strike, and rail strike, all of these things, whilst totally understandable, will also further harm the economy. Okay. I cannot, for the life of me, find any good news at the moment, any meaningful big good news. But just so you know, I have been looking for good news. There was a piece on Radio 4 this morning about a cancer research breakthrough that is likely to double the rates of early diagnosis and double people's survival rates of cancer. That's amazing news, right? Doesn't help our economy, doesn't help our housing crisis, but obviously fantastic news if that's true. I do look for good news, and I do want good news. Guys, I will when I finish what I'm saying, I'll come on to your questions. Because one of the most common ones, I'll just address this one right now. What about all the Ukrainians and people from Hong Kong coming in to buy British property? Yes, they are definitely going to have a positive and not negative impact on house prices, but they are not enough in numbers, and they don't have enough funding to stop the effective devaluation of property that's happening. It is what's happening now is the result of not even 14 years of policy. It goes back beyond that to 2001. It was just a question of when, not if. And in certain areas where we have a lot of overseas buyers coming in with cash, yes, you will see price falls in those areas won't go as low, but they are not on their own going to prop up the entire country's housing market. No, there's no chance. And if the Ukraine war ends, a lot of Ukrainians are going to want to go home as well. So there we go. That is just my headlines of why I think the recession is going to be horrible. I could actually go on and list off a whole number of reasons that I think they're going to make it even worse. They're just awful. They're hideous. There's nothing nice, good, or funny about it. A lot of people who've worked very hard and who've done nothing wrong are going to find themselves in hardship they didn't see coming or imagine, and are going to wonder what the hell happened and why and what they did wrong. And they didn't do anything wrong. It's just going to be awful. I will be the happiest of all if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I invite you all to crow at me and point at me and laugh at me and mock me for being wrong. No one will be happier if I'm wrong than I promise you. So on to the next part of this video, which is, what does that mean if you're a first-time buyer? What does it mean if you're an upsizer? What does it mean if you're a downsizer? What does it mean if you've got to sell? I will try and lift the mood a little bit. I will try and be a little bit more cheerful and happy now. Because moving should be fun, right? If you're moving home, hopefully, unless it's unfortunate life events like death, debt, and divorce, they cause movers. Hopefully, moving is an aspirational thing. You're moving on with your life. You're moving upwards and onwards and onwards and upwards, and it should be good. And that's what this channel is about. This channel is to try to help people move more easily and enjoy the process better by being better informed and knowing how to navigate it. That's the whole point of this. And despite everything I have just said, I still encourage everyone to move. Now, I know what I was going to look up. I did a quick survey on YouTube earlier about what your first time buyer position is like. We'll come on to that in a second. So if you are a first time buyer and you have been thinking of and you've been ready or you are currently in the process of trying to find, or currently in the process of actually buying, going through the process of buying a property, what does all this mean for you? Right. 3 things. Only you, so the 3 things you've got to figure out is what is going to be the right price for you to buy the property that you want to live in the area that you want to live. And nobody else is going to answer that question for you. All right. Nobody else can answer that question for you. You've got to work that out for yourself, but I'm going to let you know how to work that out for yourself. So the number one question for first-time buyers I get is, do we buy now or do we wait? Now, assuming that you have the finances to move, you've got a deposit and you've got a mortgage in principle. And if you haven't, guys, if you haven't got a mortgage in principle, please talk to my mortgage guys by popping your details in at mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. I've got handpicked amazing mortgage guys. I'm getting fantastic feedback on people who are using them. But you'd be much, much better off with a mortgage in place. If you've got a mortgage in place and you find a property that's going for a song, you're much more likely to get it at a great deal than if you don't have a mortgage ready. And what I am saying to people is you should not be paying asking prices or anything near the going market rate at the moment. You should be looking to buy at a price that you think will absorb most, but not all, of the forthcoming price falls. Okay. And I'll explain why not all in a moment. But if you're going out there looking and just hoping to get a bargain and think you'll ask for a mortgage when you find the property, then you're probably going to find yourself that catch-22 where you find the property at the same time as other people find it. They've got the mortgage ready to go and you haven't, and you don't get it. So you do want to have a mortgage, at least in principle, lined up, and to know what your rates, and only then can you actually get a rough idea of what your monthly repayments are going to be, and whether it's a 25-year or a 35-year or an even longer if they're available mortgage, etc. So you need a mortgage broker up front and in advance. And the other thing that you need, preferably in advance, is your conveyancer, because yet again, that will show that when you do find that golden property, that golden opportunity, that you're in the right place at the right time, and it's being offered at a price that you think is a price you can go, and you're up against someone else that's going to buy it, because you will always be in that situation. Okay, if you find one of those absolute bargains where the seller is very motivated and letting it go really cheap, that you won't be the only buyer, there'll be others. And if you have got all your ducks in a row, you're the one that's going to get it. So have a mortgage in principle already lined up, have a conveyancer lined up as well. That will speed up the process and show them how serious you are and make the agent more likely to recommend your offer to the seller. You'll struggle if you're against a cash buyer offering the same amount, because that's just a fact of life. So if you've got your finances in place and you're ready to start looking in principle, but you're worried about falling prices, then what I urge you to do is to go out and start viewing a property. Any property that comes on that's a property that you'd like, that you think just might be within your realm. Don't worry too much about what the asking price is, right? If it looks like a house that you'd like to live in and you think that there's an outside chance it might come in within range, go and view it. And it doesn't matter if you have to look at 20 properties to find one that's actually going to be financially within your reach, because that process, whilst taking some time, will mean that you are better informed on what's happening in that market than anyone else. You'll have your finger on the pulse. You'll have the functioning relationships with agents. You'll have built up rapport with the agents who are bringing properties on. And one day you will get that phone call from an agent that goes, I think it's your lucky day. I've just taken something on. And then they'll know you because they've shown you a few properties. They'll know how serious you are. And because they know you're serious, they'll call you when that golden opportunity comes along. Okay. So get out and view. Being out and viewing does not commit you to offering. You can view for 2 years if you want without having to offer. There is no obligation on you to make an offer. Of course, the agent's going to make you feel like there is, but there isn't. Go and view, just view, and be honest with it. Just say, look, we're viewing. When we find the right place at the right price, we will buy it immediately, because we're first-time buyers. We're in a position to move. Got the mortgage ready, got the conveyancer ready. We'll move straight away when that right one comes up. But what we're not going to do is overpay. Just be upfront about it. Because as the market gets tougher for estate agents, which it's already doing and is going to do more, funded, proceedable buyers are going to be like gold dust. And the agents who are still in denial about house prices falling and still saying they want offers over asking price and blah, 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 are finally going to call you back and saying, Charlie, please will you come back and view? And can I talk to you again? Please come and view my properties, because my clients are going to kill me because no one's viewing their properties. Okay, so get out there and view. And if you've been out there viewing long enough, I don't know, it might take 3 months, it might take 6 or 9, it might be a year. I don't know when it's going to be, but you'll know it when it happens. You will know it. And you've just got to tell yourself, right, we're going to be prepared to go out and view properties for as long as it takes. Because we don't know how quickly prices are going to fall in your area where you're looking, right? We don't know. Because all of those uncertainties I talked about, like how much interest rates are going to go up, is there going to be any more bad news? We don't know how much it's going to affect the house price and how quickly they're going to drop. But you might just find that in your budget, for the kind of property that you're looking for, it'll happen sooner than you think. And you'll find yourself looking at a property where they've told you that it's a probate property, the family just wants it sold, they don't really care how much they get for it, they just want it sold, no one else is offering, what's your offer? And then they can turn around to the client and go, we've got a first-time buyer here, the mortgage is lined up, they're ready to go, but this is the offer. And they're going to go, we just want it sold. You'll be in the minority of people, but if you're watching my channel, it already demonstrates to me that you're someone who's looking to be better informed than your average house buyer. Okay. So that's first-time buyers. Be out, be looking, have a mortgage. If you don't even get the mortgage in principle, at least have a relationship with a broker who says, right, I've got all your information, and as soon as you think there's something serious, we can push the trigger and we can move really fast. Okay? Trust your broker. Trust your broker. And if you don't trust your broker, change your broker and come and try out my guys. Because try out my guys, by the way, will actually help me support this channel, which would be really cool. Okay, upsizers. I don't know how many of you watching this are upsizers, people who need to sell and buy. You are in a very delicate, sensitive, and complex situation compared to a first-time buyer at the moment, because of the sheer number of parties involved in your desire to move from one house to another. Okay, the numbers of solicitors. I mean, it's the numbers of agents, the number of surveyors and mortgage companies, and all that kind of stuff, and councils and searches. It's an absolute minefield. Now, the number one thing that you guys need, if you need to sell and buy to upsize, you need an outstandingly good agent selling your house. And you also want that agent to be advising you on your onward purchase as well. Now, they will be motivated to advise you on that, because if you can't buy your next place, then you're not going to sell your existing place and they won't get their fee. But this brings me back to my number one golden rule. Girls and boys, everybody listen to this. Number one golden rule. All estate agents are not the same. Remember, all estate agents are not the same. If you make the mistake that most people make of thinking they're all the same, you will end up going and picking whichever one you dislike the least in your mind, right? Which is just a really big, bad mistake. Take real care. If you're selling to buy, you need an agent who's been through markets like this before, who really knows what they're doing, who can advise you, and then you have a really good chance of actually succeeding in not only selling your house to someone for a price that works for you, but also buying a property that you're going to be able to move into, because your agent will be able to help you avoid the most common pitfalls that less experienced agents won't see coming. For example, a flaky buyer. Flaky buyers are hard to spot, but really experienced agents will see a flaky buyer a mile away. Okay. So that's for upsizers. But with upsizers, you're not in a hurry. If you're upsizing, presumably to a more expensive property, the market's coming down, and the longer it takes, the price differential gets smaller between the property that you're selling and the property you're buying, on average. You might be moving to different places. There might be different dynamics, but generally speaking, there's less urgency if you are an upsizer. With one exception, I think selling anything is going to get harder next year. And if you want to upsize, then getting your existing property sold is probably your biggest hurdle, and you need to do it sooner rather than later, simply because I think that we're going to go into a potential stagnant market next year, which is a nightmare for people who want to upsize as well, because you just can't. Even when you want to, you just can't, because there aren't enough other people moving to make the whole chain work. I mean, you probably can, but it's just that much harder, okay? So although you don't need to move quickly from a price point of view, you shouldn't waste your time. So you shouldn't waste time waiting till next year to start the process. You know, you need to get your current property on the market, get it sold. Also, because you won't be taken seriously as a buyer if your existing property isn't under offer or sold. Okay, so that's upsizers. And downsizers, fast as you can, as fast as you can. I mean, if you're thinking of downsizing and you need to downsize because you've got to get out of the house you're in because it's too expensive or too big or too expensive to heat or whatever, and you're downsizing for whatever reason, call agents tomorrow. Go to bestagent.co.uk today and put your details in for Find Your Agent, and that will quickly send your details out to the nearest 20 agents and speed up the process. Hopefully, although we don't have enough agents responding, and if there are agents watching this, for goodness sake, please, we've got vendor leads and buyer leads every day on Best Agent going unanswered because not enough agents are responding. So please do. So if you're a downsizer, I'm afraid, in my opinion, you need to move really fast. I keep hearing one of these sellers saying, oh, we're going to wait and put it on the market next year when it gets busier. It's not going to get busier next year. In my opinion, it's not going to get busier for all the reasons I've outlined. Okay. Yes, there will be some buyers. Yes, there will be some deals. Yes, there will be some overseas buyers buying stuff. But in total, the number of buyers moving is going to be a lot less than it is. And the ones that are moving are going to have less money. And people coming from abroad are going to be aware of the market. They're not going to overpay. They're going to be bidding low. Okay. So you need to move now. If you're downsizing, you are in a race to get your property sold. And don't make the fatal mistake of pricing at the price you're hoping to get and waiting. It's just not going to happen. Every single day you wait, the market's going to be moving away from you. You need to get an agent that knows how to price your property, and you price it to catch the market, right? Price your property to catch the market, and you'll get it sold like that, because you'll get competing bidders if you price it just right. And finally, sellers only. It's kind of the same for you guys. The longer you wait, the less you're going to get for your property. Yeah. So unless you can wait until the market comes back, and again, I've got other graphs that show that that's in real terms, it's a long time till that happens, like 6 or 7 years. You need to sell. You need to find one of those agents that knows how to present your property brilliantly, like make it look better than all the others. The photographs of your property have got to be better than the photographs of anyone else's property. Then you'll get your property clicked on first by people looking at other similar properties. And your agent needs to be sharp on the ball and have buyers registered and be really quick and know how to price it just right to get you buyers straight away. Okay, guys. 48 minutes of ranting. Blimey. I'm now ready for some questions. Oh, Dion on TikTok says, sorry, I've just joined. First time buyer, haven't fully saved deposit. When's best to buy? Dion, I've been going for 48 minutes answering that question. If you want to watch it, go to YouTube. You'll be able to catch it and start it from the beginning, and it'll be on YouTube. For TikTok, for some reason, they don't leave them for you to watch afterwards, but I have just answered that question. Okay, let's go for some other questions. Good evening, Jose, Nick, Catherine, Ensol, Aramata, Andrew Taylor. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for Zach, AO, Thomas Moran. Thomas, when I say I have 3 jobs, I'm including things like homeschooling my kids, right? I work for myself. I always have done. I'm unemployable. But I run different businesses, as well as homeschooling my kids and other projects as well that aren't businesses. Hi, Karen Westhead. Adam, you're very welcome. Now let's get to some questions. Okay, let's just whack down to the bottom and get some questions. Okay, Pippa363 on TikTok asks, my fixed rate is still live for 2 years. Do you think we will be over the worst by then? I seriously hope so. I hope it isn't getting any worse 2 years from now. I do think we should be over the worst of the interest rates by then. As far as the housing market, I mean, I think house price falls will be getting close to the worst at that point. Oh no. Sirius Kennedy says, good advice as ever, but I'm too depressed to listen anymore tonight. Night, mate. That's so sad. Looking for the questions here. Okay, this is a great question. So Aeromatter says, how would you approach offers in excess of listings in this market? Okay, one of two ways. Most of them are going to be silly agents pricing it too high because their silly sellers think that they're going to have a chance of getting it just by being all cocky and arrogant about it and pretending they've got lots of interest, and they haven't. And you can just disregard those ones that are overpriced. But seriously good agents who have priced a property below the market value to catch fallers will be getting offers in excess of very quickly. So I can't tell you. You're going to have to look at each listing on its own merits to see which one of those two it is. They're all going to pretend that that's what they've done. And the simple way to find out is to ask them, how many offers do you have? You don't have to ask them what the offers are. I don't think they have to tell you what the offers are, but I do think they have to tell you how many offers they've had. Okay, so if they've had no offers, then good luck with your offers in excess of, right? But if they have had offers in excess of, and you can say, are you getting offers in excess of? You just have to, basically, if an agent isn't being straight with you and you ask the question about, how many offers have you had? Just keep asking questions. Who's offering? Are they a cash buyer? Do they have a mortgage? Are they selling something? Has it sold? Ask them those questions and you'll very quickly know, because, if they fumble and stumble over all the answers, it means that they don't know. Okay. Right. So, yes, Perry Power, the Essex agent I had on that live stream tonight, says he only does offers over, and he gets them because Perry is one of those agents that knows how to price correctly. It's an absolute science to him. I've known him for a long time. He gets so scientific on the pricing of his houses that's why he does it, and that's why he gets it, and that's why he's selling so many of his properties. Right. Good question. Adam says, how do we find a good conveyancer? Potential new business opportunity, best conveyancer? Yes, I actually just today was talking with the head of a large conveyancing group who I'm going to be doing a live stream with on Wednesday evening, by the way. Wednesday evening, 8 o'clock, live Q&A with a conveyancing expert. He heads up an organization of a group of companies, having exactly that discussion. So all I can tell you about finding a good conveyancer is you need to find, in my opinion, someone local where you're buying that knows that local market that you can meet in person if you need to. I would never go near a call center conveyancing, and conveyancing is such a nightmare. You do not want a cheap one. You just don't want a cheap one. The difference between a good and a bad conveyancer is the difference between your transaction completing and not. It's as simple as that. But I don't have a how do you to do that right now. Popolop says, how about guide price? It's the same. Guide price means they've got no idea what offers they're going to get. So just that's what they're hoping to get in the offers in the region of. Again, the question to ask is, how many offers do you have on this property right now? And keep asking the question until you get a straight answer. And if the answer is none, then you can offer whatever you like. And you should be offering the maximum you're comfortable paying for that property in that market, given your current circumstances. Sam Wrighton, first time buyer here, and this is a mortgage question. Sam, So he says, I'm looking at a mortgage to ensure my mortgage's payments are stable. I'm considering 5-year fixed. Would you say this is a good idea? The answer to that question, whether it is or is not a good idea, can only be given to you by someone who understands the full entire context of your situation, your finances, your job stability, your deposit size, the type of property you're buying, all those sorts of things. And so to get an answer to that question, you need to talk to a mortgage broker. And yes, try mine out, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. There's a link below. I'm going to keep on plugging those. Can I do a Q&A with a buying agent? Yeah, don't see why not. That's a great idea. Hadn't even thought about doing that. So I'm doing this on my laptop. It's a bit fiddly compared to my... good luck, Aramata, on your viewing. Okay. Johnny Tapia on TikTok says, houses going on Rightmove this month are higher than 6 months ago. Why? Johnny, the only answer, I mean, unless they've been refurbished in that time, that would be one answer, right? They bought it 6 months ago and they've refurbished it, now they're selling it. That's a possibility. Otherwise, if a house has just been on the market, come off and gone back on again with no change, and the price is higher than 6 months ago, I suspect that they've just been fooled by a overvaluing agent into signing into a very long-term sole agency agreement. And they've fallen for that trap, which people fall for every single time. Simpu Sharma says, I want to move house. Any advice, please? Not without knowing a lot more details, Simpu. I need to know whether you own, whether you rent, whether you're selling as well to buy. So I'd need more specifics. But if you go to my YouTube channel, Moving Home with Charlie, I've got videos that answer most questions on that. A house has been on a month with no offers. Would you offer under? Yes. I wouldn't just offer, but again, I disregard LOF 860. I disregard the asking price and just work out what I think that property is worth to me in that area, given that the market's prices are likely to fall. What else do we have here? Okay, this is a really good question I get a lot. Ian on YouTube asks, is it a good idea to be cheeky with an offer in order to try and meet in the middle? The answer in a word is no. This is why I always advise, and this goes against other people's advice, but this is what I've always done, and it's always worked for me, not just in property, but in anything, any major purchases. I don't want to get into a game of poker and guesswork, and we'll start here, we'll start there, and we'll end up blah, 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 and just, I don't feel that ever works out well. What I feel is, because you're buying a home, because it's not like you're just buying something to sell it and flip it. If you're buying because you want to live there, you need to work out what is the maximum price that you would have paid if someone else got it for less. Does that make sense? Let's say you offered 250 and someone else offered 260 and got it. And you think to yourself, Jesus, we actually would have paid 270 for that house. Now it's too late. You kick yourself. That's why it's not worth going into the cheeky game, right? It's always worth working out what is your maximum price. I'm talking exclusively about home movers now, buying a home, because of the non-financial value that comes with owning a home that you can live in, and the security and the certainty and the stability of owning a home and just being in there and going, this is my home, So you work out the number. It's not easy, but you can do it. That is the absolute maximum we'd be willing to pay, where we still feel comfortable, we still feel like we're not overextending ourselves, and we would definitely be excited to proceed at that price. If you imagine your offer being accepted at that price and then feeling nervous that you've overextended yourself, the number is too high. The number is too high. But if you imagine that price being accepted and you find yourself thinking, at that price, we're excited, we're not worried or nervous, we know we're financially secure at that price, we'd love to get in, then you found your maximum price, comfortable price. Be prepared to walk away. And then what you do is you go, this is my max. And you say to the agent, I'm not going to negotiate with you. Take it or leave it if you believe it or not, but I'm telling you, this is my offer or we walk. I'm not joking around because I don't want to get into I want to secure the property. This is why this is my best offer. I want the home. I like the home. This is the maximum I'm prepared to offer. I cannot offer any more than that because we can't be financially secure if we offer more than that. So it's that or I walk. Okay. That is all you can do. That's my advice, Ian. If you start with a cheeky offer, you can often end up pissing off the other side and then they just don't want to sell to you, right? And then you can often end up losing because don't forget that if you get into a haggle, you're haggling with people that do it for a living all day, every day, and they're very good at it. That's why they're in the job. So, if it's a cheeky, as in a piss take offer, no, you want to be taken seriously, okay? But by all means, if you think there are no other offers around here and this price is this house is overvalued, like 40% overvalued. If they're asking 500 grand and you're like, it's not worth anything over 300 grand and there's no one else, offer 300 grand. If you're a cash buyer, they're desperate and you never know. It happens. It happens. The first property I ever bought was on the market for 35,000 and I paid 23,500 for it. That was my one and only offer. I said, guys, that's my offer because that's all I can afford. And I got it. They tried to haggle me up to 25 grand. I was like, you didn't listen to me. I can't afford more. If I had 25 grand, I'd pay you 25 grand for it, but I don't. 23.5 is all I have. And I got it. I couldn't believe it. Pippa363 says, what do you think the market will fall by? Sorry if you've already said. Yes, I've already said a lot. It's 35% on average, which is varying from 15% in the least affected areas to 50% in the most affected areas. But it will take a couple of years until the prices get down to that offer on average. Next question. I love these questions. They're really cool. I cannot give advice on leasehold properties other than check with your conveyancer. Buying a leasehold property can be fine depending on all kinds of things. So you need legal advice on the lease from your conveyancer. Okay. I cannot advise on leases. I mean, it's absolutely fine. If you're a city and you're buying a flat in a large apartment, it's quite typical for there to be leases. If I was buying a detached house, I'd be really suspicious about a lease. Really, I wouldn't buy a detached house that was on a lease. Personally, I'd only buy a freehold if it was a detached house. But if it's an apartment, Johnny Tapier says agents are telling me they won't even reduce by 10k on 500k. Right. You can disregard what agents say. Right, that kind of comment, well, they won't even reduce by 10k, is what they say when they've met a buyer that they think A, can afford it, and B, really wants it. And they're really good at it because they practice. They have training sessions on how to do this, right? There are people watching this video, I would wager, you know who you are, who are estate agency sales negotiation trainers, okay? And these guys will run rings around you all day long. So you have got to this is why you've got to know what your own best price is and just walk away, right? Because if you have your maximum price or you walk, it doesn't matter how good they are at negotiating. They can't do anything with that. There's like, that's the only offer. Okay. So, guys, agents may or may not be telling you the truth about the seller refusing to drop their price. Okay. Some sellers are being really stupidly stubborn and just aren't going to sell. And maybe the agent's telling the truth and the seller won't drop the price. Some agents will say it because they think they'll get you to bid up. But again, following my advice of working out, if you're buying a home, working out the maximum comfortable price you're prepared to pay and being comfortable to walk away if they say no. And the number of times, honestly, you'll put the offer down and say, that's our best offer. We cannot go above that. We're off now. If you change your mind, give us a call. The number of times you will get a call back within a couple of days. And if they call you back and say, look, can you go any higher at all? The answer is they're going to take your offer. You just say, no, I told you, that's it. We're not going higher than that. It's our maximum offer. And so when you get, Johnny, agents giving you that kind of rubbish, it just doesn't matter because you say, well, this is my price. My price is my price. That's it. Don't overpay for a property, especially in this market. Mehul Bhutani says, I'm looking to buy a flat in London. It's share of freehold. Is that better or worse than leasehold? There are pros and cons to it. In some respects, it's better than having a freeholder if you own the share of the freehold because it is a share of the freehold. So you're not a leaseholder. In other respects, it can be complicated with the neighbours. So you need a lawyer to look into it for you, your conveyancer. So Test XYZ says, I've been keeping an eye on Rightmove, trying to find some properties in Manchester location in some of my preferred locations. In the last few weeks, there's not many properties being listed. I think a lot of people are waiting for the new year to list their properties. And that's why I think that's a mistake if you're a seller. People like Test XYZ on YouTube are looking now and get it sold before Christmas. Because you've got less after Christmas, you're going to have so much more competition if you're selling a property. Get it sold now. So there may be local market reasons for that in Manchester. I don't know in those preferred locations. But in my view, I think a lot of people are going, it's basically Christmas. It's less than a month till Christmas now. Let's get Christmas out of the way. Then we'll put our house on the market. And I think you're going to see a lot more coming on in the new year. Songbird tells me I just bought a flat and I'm 100% correct. About what? Thank you very much. But what am I correct about? Can you change your offer? Yes, you can do whatever you like with your offers. Until you've exchanged, you can do whatever you like with your offer. Unless you've made there are some offers where you have to sign a contract and you make a deposit, then you can't change those without losing it. But yes, you can change your offer. Up-to-date sold house prices. The only way to do that is land registry. All right. And you can go to Rightmove or Zoopla. They've got them as well. But they're always a few months out of date. The only way to know what prices are being agreed today is to be out there viewing with agents. Cool. That's a good question, Paul. So Paul on YouTube asks, if I get a good conveyancer and the seller has a rubbish one, then the process drags out. Have I ever argued a seller change the conveyancer? That's a really good question. I mean, you can always ask, but it's going to cost the money to change it. I mean, a seller that wants to sell might be motivated to do it. So, I mean, yeah, interesting question. I mean, definitely worth. There's no harm in asking, is there? Kicking Mustang asks, and I know if there are mortgage brokers watching this, please correct me if I'm wrong. He says, is there any way of finding out the size of a mortgage against a property to get an idea of how much pressure a seller may be under? Yes, the land registry, you can go and buy and download for about £2, £3 a copy of the title deeds for any property. And in that title deed, it will have a copy of the mortgage. I don't think it may not show the outstanding amount on the mortgage. It may not show the exact amount of the mortgage. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it does show you a lot of details about the mortgage. So it is possible to find out. Okay, Mick Ness. This is a question I get a lot. Songbird says, I was right about agents. You stayed firm, they tried to raise, and you got the flat 15% cheaper than market value. Congratulations, Songbird, and well done for staying firm. Congratulations. You got it 15% below asking or below market value by standing your ground. Cool, well done. Right. Mick Ness, and after this, I've got to go. I've got to just do one more question from each, and I've got to go. It says, if you currently own a home with little to no mortgage, would you recommend selling, renting in the short term, and buying back later with a view of upsizing later? So it's a personal gamble, and I can't recommend whether you should do it or not. It's about your personal risk appetite. That is the kind of gamble I'm okay taking. If my confidence in what house prices are doing in the area that I want to live is good enough, right? But anyone who considers that gamble, and it is a gamble, right? It is a gamble, right? It is not impossible that you sell and then suddenly the war in Ukraine ends, energy prices come down, something remarkable happens, the economy takes off and house prices recover faster than anyone expected. I mean, I think hell will freeze over before that happens, but you have to accept that as your worst case scenario, okay? If you did what you're talking about, you might find yourself in a 12-month rental contract sitting there while property values go up and you're off the ladder and you can't get back on. That's the risk that you have to be willing to take if you want to play that game of selling, putting the money in the bank, renting in the short term and buying back later. Right now, I don't think there's been a better time to do that for a very long time, but it's totally subject to local markets, your hyper local market. Okay, which I don't know anything about, so I can't advise you. And it's totally down to your risk appetite. So, Mick, I don't know if you've got another half or not, but you need to say to your other half, if you've got one, you in this? Are you prepared to take the risk, roll the dice, see what happens? And if they say yes, go for it if you're confident about what's going to happen to prices in your area. If not, don't do it. But it's a personal choice for you. Ba, 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 ba. Andy George 1 on TikTok says, if first-time buyers don't need to move now, is it best to keep waiting for markets to keep dropping? Slightly less risky than the other person who just asked the question. Personally, on average, yes. I think, go back to the beginning of my video, which is on YouTube, and hear me explain why you should be out there looking anyway. While you're waiting, also keep looking. Keep your finger on the local market. But if you don't need to move now, you're comfortable where you are now. I think next year, a year from now, is going to be when the real bargains are coming back, and interest rates might be coming down a bit by then as well. Okay. Last question is from Adam on YouTube, and he asks, I've heard when buying, you can normally pick 2 out of the 3 between good location, good price, and good condition. Do you think prices will fall enough for it to achieve all 3? Well, if there's a property that's in a great location and great condition, it's going to be getting better prices than other properties. So yes, even those properties will still be better value when prices have fallen than they are now. But they're still going to always sell for more if they've got all 3 of those. You know what I mean? Guys, I'm absolutely knackered. I've got a broken tooth, and I really want to put my feet up before I go to bed. This has been awesome. I hope you have found this useful. I don't suppose you've enjoyed it much because it's not been that poor guy on TikTok who said, I'm really sorry, this is too depressing. I'm going. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. A buy with no chain is more appealing. Yes. Depending how much less, of course. But guy, that's it. Johnny, good night. Pippa363, you're welcome. Thank you. Currywurst, thank you. Amaran, thank you too. Adam, you're welcome. Kicking Mustang, you're welcome. Michelle, you're welcome. RJ, you're welcome. Giovanna Bono, you're welcome. That was a bit of an event, wasn't it? Jack Waldron, Rawnsley, Annie Anonymous, thank you. And thank you for your idea, Annie, about having a buying agent on here to do some there are some good ones. So I'll have a think about that. I'm feeling better having got some of it off my chest. So thank you for listening, guys. All 417 of you. Thanks, Mark. YSLX. Oh, so that's about Discord. I'll have to look at that later. You guys are awesome. Remember, if you don't have a mortgage broker and you need one, go to mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. It's on your screen for YouTube now. And you guys, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. Ali from England, you can catch the whole of this live stream on YouTube now. It's an hour and 12 minutes long, and you're welcome to it. Much love. Thank you very much, Alex Witt as well, and Songbird. You're welcome. I'm clicking the end live stream, guys. Gotta go. Bye. Bye, guys.